This is Prop Points on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Welcome to Prop Points. Jeff Erickson here with Nick Whalen. We are from Rotowire.com. Check us out at Rotowire for free at Rotowire.com/VSiN. Big show up today here. We got to get you updates on baseball and NBA, some upsets. We're going to do a play it or pass it MLB Futures edition here. Kind of excited about that one there because see what's changed in a week. We're going to preview today's NBA slate with Alex Barutha. And then we'll preview the baseball slate along with our best bets to finish up the show. Nick, a lot of stuff going on in the sports world, as always. I want to jump in right away, though. A couple points I wanted to hit. Starting off at the day baseball games. First of all, we got two games going on, Boston and Baltimore. Two Red Sox homers already, including Christian Campbell, who just signed a big contract extension, just hit another homer, 4-2 Red Sox in this one in the fourth inning.
Yeah, we only have 5 games on the baseball slate today. It is a bit of a travel day around Major League Baseball as we get some big series to look forward to this weekend. But yeah, I'm glad we got this one in action. It's got my eye a little bit more than Rockies Phillies. All due respect to Antonio Senzatela, who is on the hill tonight, or this afternoon, I should say, for Colorado. But we got Houston, Minnesota, we got Arizona, New York, and our teams going head to head tonight as well. The Reds and the Brewers beginning a 4-game set. But really the big news here, Jeff, is that yesterday, and what was a win for the Boston Red Sox, Rafael Devers did the unthinkable. 0 strikeouts, even had a couple of hits as well, including a double at his first RBI of the season. That batting average now up to .07 on the year. He did walk in his first at bat in today's game, did go back to striking out, however, in the second at bat.
Womp, womp, womp. Yep. And it's not like everything's secure because he had a couple of hits, obviously. It's not like we should be, completely cutting him either. It's a game of extremes, and we're somewhere in between that. Notice the thing about the Red Sox that's interesting is they haven't moved Devers down the order. They haven't given him a day off. They're just letting him work his way through this. It implies to me that they think this is more just he's rusty, he's behind because he got such a late start in spring training. They don't think this is a shoulder issue, that the swing speed issue is not one that is something that is permanent there. I'm going to try to look up, see where his percentile is today. It's always, it's the funny thing is you go to Baseball Savant and every day he's one of the top trending players. Everybody's, maybe not as much as earlier in the week when everyone was completely, utterly freaking out. But at the same time, you start to see that, we're all concerned a little bit there about what spot he's going to be in there, what's going to happen. We talked about the DH tax. His bat speed is up a little bit cumulatively over the season. At one point, it was 30th percentile. It's up to 35th percentile. So maybe that inference about from the Red Sox is right.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain amount of goodwill that Rafael Devers has built up as well, right? I mean, this is a guy who's been an all-star caliber player for this franchise for a number of years. So I think he gets the benefit of the doubt, perhaps more than somebody who hasn't spent as long with the organization as he has. A younger player maybe wouldn't get that kind of leash, but I think you're right. To read into where he's hitting in the order, I think that matters, right? I think if the Red Sox were really concerned, if there was, a concerning injury afoot here, they would either have given him a day or two off so far. They would have moved him down in the order. But I also think there's a pride element at play here for Rafael Devers, right? He's not thrilled with how everything played out with the Bregman addition, getting stripped essentially of his third base duties. And, what happened in spring training obviously had a lot to do with that. But, he's adjusting to a new situation. We were talking with Eric Halterman on Sirius XM earlier this week, and he posited that, sometimes it could just be difficult for these guys who are used to playing the field to move over to DH, right? I think from my perspective, it's like, all you got to do is hit, right? That seems like it should be easy. It could be tough for those guys to stay engaged as well.
Yeah, players are creatures of routine. They've done things one way their whole careers. An established player like Devers too. It's a wound to his pride for that matter as well, having to adjust. But let's face it, the defense has merited him being a DH. And there's a reason why they're doing it this way. His replacement at third base, Alex Bregman, is also homered in this game. The Orioles got a homer out of Cedric Mullins, who is batting leadoff. That's one tangible change that we've seen from the Orioles due to the Colton Cowser injury, is now Mullins is up. He also added his second stolen base of the year, 3 homers, 2 stolen bases. So a nice little start for him. Not so nice for Charlie Morton, who's getting cuffed around. Yeah, they're in the fourth inning there. He's got a couple runners on base. He's one out in the fourth. He's already given up 4 runs, 5 hits, 2 walks, has struck out 7 batters, but these are two kind of shaky starts in a row for Morton to start the season. And this is one of two acquisitions they had going into from the offseason there. After losing Corbin Burns, they added Morton, added Sugano. Sugano had hand cramps due to dehydration his first start. And of course, they're down Grayson Rodriguez right now, too.
I think that if there is an Achilles heel for the Baltimore Orioles this year, I think that'll be it, right? I think the lack of depth in that pitching staff, not really bringing in a replacement for Corbin Burns. I know, you're kind of on the side of, maybe that wasn't the kind of money that a franchise should pay Corbin Burns with some of the trends that we've seen, but, they didn't really replace him. And, they have some injuries in that rotation, and you're depending really heavily on players the caliber of Charlie Morton, and that's kind of what's going to happen. 2 home runs given up already, 1 to Campbell, like you mentioned, and 1 to Alex Bregman. Live total in that game, by the way, sitting at 12.5. At the DK Sportsbook. Red Sox, of course, big favorites on the money line. Live total in Colorado Philly, Jeff, is down to 5.5. We are in the 4th inning in that one. Phillies did have a run on the board. I believe it was in the 3rd inning. Ended up being taken off the board. Player was called out at home. So that would have been an RBI for Brandon Marsh. That comes off the board. Phillies had the bases loaded for Kyle Schwarber, who ended up grounding out to end the inning. That was the 2nd inning, But on average, or on balance, I should say, so far, the Phillies are not one of these teams that we're crying about in terms of batting average. Batting average around Major League Baseball, when we talked about it yesterday, Jeff, was 233. It's down to 230 now coming into today. But Phillies entering the day leading Major League Baseball in average at 299.
Indeed. It's been a bizarro game. We just saw the very rare base runner hit by a live batted ball, resulting in the runner being out. Bryson kind of kills the rally a little bit. No, 2 outs in the 4th. In this one, Stott hit a ball that would have been a base hit between 1st and 2nd. But unfortunately, JT Realmuto got clipped in the heel by the ball. So 2 outs now in the bottom of the 4th, and just 1 runner on instead of 1st and 2nd and 1 out. We'll keep you up to date on both of those games as events merit. Last night, though, Shohei Ohtani 50-50 bobblehead night. Walks off the Braves, shot to center, perfect dramatics. The Dodgers had to rally from a 5-0 deficit. They are now 8-0.
Yeah, a lot of people were off this Dodgers team this year, Jeff. Just not enough talent, didn't spend enough money, didn't really want to improve this roster. Look, not me. I'm going to say it. I'm going to look right into the camera. I think this Dodgers team is very good. They are 8-0 now, overcame a 5-0 deficit early in that game last night. And there's a feeling of inevitability with the Dodgers that you don't often have in Major League Baseball, because it's tough to put together, big runs in baseball in the way that it is in, say, basketball, for instance, where, it feels like a team could just go on a 12-0 run in a heartbeat. You really have to kind of work for these runs in baseball. And a 5-0 lead on the Dodgers means almost nothing, especially when they're at home, especially when they have Ohtani, especially on Shohei Ohtani bobblehead night. And Dodgers are now minus 500 at DK to finish with the best regular season record. There's not an updated win total out there, but the market is offering, kind of banded wins, to win 80 games, to win 90 games, to win 100 games. The Dodgers are minus 370 to win 100 games right now. And maybe the bigger story, though, Jeff, is on the other side of that game last night. The Braves fall to 0-7. 0-7. They are at least off today. They could regroup a little bit and look ahead to welcoming in the Marlins for a 3-game set this weekend.
Yeah. By the way, I did find an updated win total on the Dodgers at FanDuel, 108.5. Okay. That's crazy. That is wild. But yeah, you're right on the Braves, and we're going to talk more about them and play it or pass it later on. But yeah, horrible, awful, panic-ridden start. 0-7. Brian Snitker replaces puts in Raisel Iglesias in the 8th inning on a 2-0 count. Predictably did not end well. They wouldn't even let the pitcher Daisel Hernandez stay in the game on that batter, treating it like it was a playoff game, which maybe it was for the Braves, right, if you think about it there. We'll talk more about that 0-7 start with some of your Whalen 2.0 next gen stats later on there, but looking forward to that. Before we do anything else, though, quick note over from our friends here at VSiN. The VSiN Summer Special is here. From Augusta to the NFL Draft, MLB and the NBA and NHL playoffs, and the Kentucky Derby, VSiN Pro has you covered all summer long for just $59. Sign up now and get expert picks, including all our best bets for the Masters, exclusive betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 video access on the VSiN Watch app, plus our Kentucky Derby betting guide, NFL betting guide when it drops this summer, setting you up for a winning football season. Every sport, every edge, one price. Get full VEASAN Pro access now through August 1st for just $59 at VEASAN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. Let's turn our attention over to the hardwood real quick here. We got a couple interesting games on the slate, including a huge effort by SGA to lead the Thunder past the Pistons. Thunder, they remain a wagon.
Thunder have reached full wagon status. They probably reached that like 3 months ago at this point. And, it feels like every night they're missing, one or two guys. It's been more on the role player side of late. But I do want to give credit to the Pistons for hanging around in this game with no Cade Cunningham. I mean, there were multiple times where it looked like, OKC would go on a run and they were going to put this game away. And Detroit was able to consistently, keep it in that like 8-12 range, which, look, you're on the road at OKC. Doesn't mean all that much. But yeah, another big game from SGA. Did go just 10 of 26. From the field, but still got to 33 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals on top of that. Thunder have now won 11 straight games. We did cash our Tim Hardaway over 2.5 threes in the first half last night, by the way. That was free money. Didn't really understand that line. I mean, the Pistons just need any source of offense when Cade Cunningham isn't out there. But really, I thought there were a couple other big games last night that really got my attention, Jeff. Boston was a double-digit favorite over the Miami Heat. They lose outright, snapping their 9-game winning streak. Miami has now won 6 in a row. Just a brutal effort from Jason Tatum. Finished with just 16 points on 4 of 17 shooting. But we got Alex Barutha joining us a little bit later in the show to help us break down tonight's slate.
Yeah, another hideous loss by the Kings as well to the Wizards. Can't just do that there when you're fighting for that last play-in spot. We're going to do play it or pass it, MLB Future style, next on Prop Points.
You're watching Prop Points on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Prop Points on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network. Nick Whalen, Jeff Erickson hanging out with you on this Thursday afternoon. We'll have Alex Barutha joining us on the Progressive Guest Line in about 10 minutes or so, giving us some NBA picks for tonight. But Jeff, we are a week in to the Major League Baseball season. Haven't seen, crazy movement so far in the futures market, but if there's one thing we do on this show, Jeff, it is overreact to small early season sample sizes. So we're going to take a look at some updated Major League Baseball futures. I'm going to throw a few your way. You're going to tell me, are you playing it or are you passing it at the current odds? And we got to start with Shohei Ohtani. Play it or pass it, Jeff. Shohei Ohtani to win the National League MVP award. Still plus money, plus 140 right now at DK.
Yeah, it is. And, you got to shop around and try to find, see if you can find better odds here and there, but not going to find it. It's, in fact, DK might have the best ones. I was looking around. I saw like FanDuel's 125, Caesars is 115 for that matter. Our friend Mike Palm described trying to bet against him in the MVP futures market as Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill. I think he's kind of right about that. Although it's even more steep in the AL where Aaron Judge is even minus money right now for AL MVP. It's kind of crazy, but Ohtani hasn't even pitched. That's the really wild thing about all of this there. He hasn't really gone on the crazy run. He had the home run last night, obviously, but he hasn't really gone through one of those stretches like, oh my God, every single night. So it really could be a case there where they're kind of that's already banked in. Now, I think the thing that could stop him is like the pitching aspect. And I'm worried about maybe him getting hurt while pitching, something of that nature. That's something that could change things. Also, there's not much fun in betting a guy that's such a prohibitive favorite. So I still would try to look to find maybe some alternate bets there, maybe a Mookie Betts at 1,500 or something of that nature, or maybe Ellie De La Cruz. I'm looking at the DK market right now, and it's actually a lot better for someone like Ellie, someone of that nature. I think is where it's obviously a long shot. You're not getting the favorite, but that's the whole point of betting it is to try to find some sort of betting value here.
Could I interest you in Fernando Tatis, who is 8-1 essentially across the board?
You could, and it would just be like the ultimate insult because, of course, I passed on him in my most important draft. We may have mentioned that at time or 7 before, but he's certainly getting off to an incredible start. The team's off to an incredible start. I think there is some value in that.
Okay.
So I'd play
there
that.
we go. So if you don't like Ohtani,
I got to get the
if you don't like
parlays
Ohtani
now.
at plus 140. Right. Yeah. Take a look at Tatis. Take a look maybe at Ellie De La Cruz. Speaking of those San Diego Padres, Jeff, play it or pass it. The San Diego Padres to win 90 plus games this season. So for this bet, getting to 90 is just fine. It's 90 or more. That is plus 100 at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Padres joining the Dodgers, of course, is the only two teams still undefeated. Padres sitting at 7-0.
Yeah, I think I'm going to play it here. I'm Mr. Shiny Happy People here. I'm going to go 2 in a row here. Padres won 93 games last year. Obviously, they're not the same team. They lost some talent. Lost Joe Musgrove for the season. Yu Darvish hasn't thrown a pitch yet. And yet, they've got these banked wins. I mean, that's part of it there. I think the Nick Pivetta acquisition was inspired. I think that was a really smart signing. They did it late. And they're getting better work out of Tatis than they got last year. Remember, Tatis missed a good chunk of the season. 60 games last year. Wasn't the same version of Tatis. If he is the MVP caliber type of player and you get 140 games from him, because he won't play all 162, I'm pretty sure about that. But if you get that, well, I mean, what are we looking at here? We're looking at someone, we're looking at what he does for this team. I think 90 wins is attainable. So I'll play it.
Okay, 2 for 2 plays so far from Jeff Erickson. Play it or pass it, Jeff. The Chicago Cubs to win the NL Central. That is plus 125. Cubs currently 5-4 on the year. Everybody just looking way up at the St. Louis Cardinals, who are 4-2, the only other team above 500 in the NL Central. So Cubs to win the Central plus 125. What say you?
I hate to be the one-man positive band here, but once again, I'm going to play this. I thought they had the best roster going into the season. I don't think that's changed. I think they've gotten through a really tough stretch of the schedule. 9 games on the road, including 2 in Tokyo against the Dodgers way early in the season. They lost those. They've overcome that. Split Arizona. They should have won 3 out of 4 there, but for an 8th inning bullpen meltdown in that one. I think that's a case there where we're looking at where they should be 6-3, not even 5-4. I'm going to play this one.
Looking to stay ahead of the game this season, Rotowire has you covered with our expert analysis, real-time updates, and the best fantasy and betting tools in the industry. Whether you're looking to make picks, set your fantasy lineup, place bets, our award-winning insights give you the edge you need. Get started today over at rotowire.com/VSiN and take your game to the next level. That's rotowire.com/VSiN, VSIN. Playing a little MLB Futures edition of Play It or Pass It here on Prop Points. Jeff, we're going to stick in the NL here, talk about that Atlanta Braves team that we mentioned in the first segment. Updated odds for the Atlanta Braves. The 0-7 Atlanta Braves to make the postseason. Yes is minus 230 over at DraftKings. The no now down to plus 180. So are the Atlanta Braves going to make the playoffs, Jeff?
So I'm going to pass the Braves making the playoffs here. I was flummoxed when I saw the line, when I saw the plus 180 on the no side of things, to be honest with you there. You did the research. Whalen Next Gen Stats. Since 1985, 13 teams have started 0-7. None of them have made the postseason. None of them have even had a winning record. Most win for any of those teams is 76 by the 2010 Astros. 11 of those 13 have lost at least 90 games. Well, I'll stipulate that the Braves are better than every single one of those teams. So what does that get them? To 82, 83 wins? Does that get you a playoff berth? I don't think so. They play in the NL East. So I don't think they're going to catch the Phillies. I feel like that's already kind of a tough spot for them to be in. I know this is overreaction theater. It's only 7 games into the season, but they've dug themselves such a deep hole. If I had the ability to run to the window to bet that no plus 180, I think I would. And I just factor in, we talked about the Padres just a second ago. The Diamondbacks are a quality team, won 89 games last year. 89 didn't make the playoffs last year. Do you see the Braves getting to 89 with an 0-7 start? I don't. I think this is a pretty emphatic do not make the playoffs.
I mean, you got Strider coming back at some point. You got Acuna coming back at some point. I think that's what you're clinging to if you're Atlanta, but hard to argue with the numbers, Jeff. And I will say, so right. Again, they're off today. They host the Marlins this weekend. If they sweep the Marlins, where does this number sit? Are we back on track for the Braves? Like there's so much pressure now. It feels like on every game. You mentioned Snickers like managing like it's a playoff series already, and I think they kind of feel this. But when you look at those other teams who started 0-7, it is a collection of some of the worst teams in baseball over the last 40 years. 7 of those 13 teams that we mentioned lost at least 100 games. Like we know the Braves aren't that bad. That's what makes this so unique.
Yeah, I agreed. And I think the schedule has something to do with it. I'll stipulate to that they may have had the hardest schedule for any 0-7 team ever, going at Padres, at Dodgers to start the season. But keep in mind, they've lost Erickson Profar for half the season. They lost Reynaldo Lopez for at least half the season. They signed a reliever, Hector Neris. They've already DFA'd him and released him. He is a free agent now. That's where they have a ownership group that's a corporate ownership group that the Liberty Media Group that is kind of tightening the purse strings on them. I don't think you're going to see a big swing at the trade deadline. I think there's so many things working against them. I know the talent is there for them to hit a lot better, and it's really the hitting that's been horrifically awful so far. But I just think it's just too steep of a hill to overcome. You're right. I do think that this is the best price you're going to get on the betting that don't, by the way, too, because I think they're going to beat the Marlins 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3, maybe. So the odds will get a little longer. You'll get a little shorter. I think you'll get, depending which side you're trying to bet, I guess. But I would think this is the best. The time to strike is now.
Mm-hmm. The Atlanta Braves hitting 151 as a team so far on the season. Goes without saying that is dead last in Major League Baseball. All right, real quick, Jeff, we got one more for you. We're looking at the NL Rookie of the Year. This is 4-1 at DraftKings. I know this player is also a co-favorite at FanDuel at plus 350 with Dylan Cruz. Matt Shaw of the Chicago Cubs. Play it or pass it to win NL Rookie of the Year?
So I'm going to say pass it. And there's a reason why he's done very little, and yet his odds are, he's a co-favorite. It's because you look at the list of the National League, Rookie of the Year candidates right now, and it's underwhelming. Dylan Cruz is off to a terrible start. Roki Sasaki is off to a terrible start. We haven't seen Bubba Chandler. AJ Smith-Shawver's made one start. I could go on, but I can't because we're going to be up against a break soon. But point is, it's a long season. Players are going to emerge. I think the betting market for Rookie of the Year is pretty volatile. You can see lots of changes. Just look at the AL and like the changes in Cam Smith from day to day and how much that's changed. That's a good indication that I think the same thing could happen in the National League. So I wouldn't want to bet Matt Shaw at this price right now. So I'm going to pass it.
Got some NBA talk coming up next. 6 games in the association tonight. Alex Barutha joining us next to break it all down.
You're watching Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into Prop Points here on VSiN. Nick Whalen, Jeff Erickson here with you, and we are now joined by one of our favorite guests. He usually stops by weekly, our NBA lead editor over at Rotowire, Alex Barutha, joining us on the Progressive Guest Line. Alex, welcome to the show, man. We got 6 NBA games on the slate tonight, coming off of yet another wild, unpredictable night. We had 7 games close with double-digit spreads last night. Had a couple of upsets. Before we dive in on your picks for today, I want to ask you about the Sacramento Kings. What is going on here? I feel like the Kings are trying to be the Suns. Both of these teams are trying to keep each other alive in the play-in race. The Kings now holding just a 1-game lead on Phoenix for that 10th and final spot in the play-in. I think the Kings losing straight up last night to the Washington Wizards in that fashion, I think that might be the single worst or most crushing loss of the season.
It's been really bad. I think the thing about Sacramento is like they weren't playing terribly initially after they traded De'Aaron Fox. And, I think some of that was just the team was kind of energized. This happens sometimes, right? A big trade is made. And even though you theoretically get worse, some of the guys who weren't playing as much, they come in, they start playing with more energy. But lately it's been brutal. And I think they've sort of run out of options when I don't think bringing Malik Monk off the bench is a terrible idea, which they've started doing lately because they just had no defenders in the starting 5. But I don't know how you justify playing him like 20 minutes a game, which they have been. He's just too good to not play enough. And the biggest issue is, like, of course, we know they'd be bad at defense. Over the past 2 weeks, they're 23rd, but they're also 23rd in offense. And if you built this team that's so offense heavy, and if you can't score, you're just going to lose every single night to like the Washington Wizards.
Devastating loss. And it like Nick said, it's like they're conspiring to keep the Suns alive. The Suns are and the Suns have no reason to want to lose either, but they don't have Kevin Durant. They're just completely like a baby seal versus a club without Kevin Durant against a good team. But here we are. It's funny seeing like the bottoms of these the play-in tournament teams really struggling just to try to get any sort of compelling matchup here.
Yeah, and the thing is, both of these teams, I mean, Phoenix and Sacramento that you mentioned, Phoenix owes their pick to Houston and Sacramento owes their pick to Atlanta. So they have no incentive to like fall out of the play-in tournament. So both of these teams should in theory try to be winning. And Phoenix has lost 4 straight. Sacramento has lost 3 straight. They're 3-7 in their past 10. They're just, they both look quite bad.
Speaking of looking quite bad, Alex, we got the Philadelphia 76ers in action tonight. They are hosting the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks coming off a nice win, a much-needed win over those Phoenix Suns their last time out. Bucks are 12-point road favorites tonight. I don't think this is a trip-up spot necessarily for Milwaukee, but you never know. With no Dame Lillard, did get news earlier this morning that Tyrese Maxey will not be returning at any point the rest of the way for the Sixers. Really no surprise there with like 6 games remaining in the season. But how do you look at this game? If you don't like a side, any props coming to your mind?
Well, you mentioned the 76ers playing badly. These teams have 1 combined win in their past 14 games. Neither team is playing very well. So maybe it's not I actually would not be surprised if the Bucks manage to lose this game somehow, just by the way they've been playing. But I'm not taking a side. I'm not taking a side in this one. I am going to go to the prop market with Ryan Rollins, who has been starting for the Bucks in place of Damian Lillard. I like his over 3.5 assists. It's juiced to the over. It's about -140. But he's got at least 3 assists in 7 straight games. Hasn't seen fewer than 28 minutes in each of the past 3 games, which is good because a guy like Ryan Rollins, like you kind of need a minutes floor with him. But the main thing with the 76ers, since the All-Star break, they're allowing the 3rd most assists per game. And if you dig into the box scores, it's not usually like the other team's best playmaker that's doing all this damage because these games get out of hand. So it's often like a secondary playmaker or a bench guy. Like in the past 30 days, they gave up 14 assists to Elfrid Payton. They gave up 13 to Jalen Green, 11 to the big man Jalen Williams, and 9 to Jamal Shed. It's just these kind of secondary guys. So I think in this situation, Ryan Rollins over 3.5 assists, it should be a bar that he can hit.
Miami Heat quietly have been one of the better teams in the NBA in the last couple of weeks. 6 wins in a row. Got that win over the Celtics yesterday. Now they get the Grizzlies. And do we count the Heat as a good team when we're looking at the Grizzlies' track record against a good team so far, or is this a little bit different? And is there a play you like in this game?
I wouldn't. I don't have. I think if you made me, I would take the Heat here as 5-point underdogs at home, even though they're out some guys, notably Andrew Wiggins. Just because, I mean, you mentioned that the Heat have been playing better lately. 6 wins in a row, 8 wins against the spread in their past 8 games. But the play that I'm looking at here is Tyler Hero over 3.5 made threes. It's +135. You might be able to find a 2.5 somewhere, but since the All-Star break, Grizzlies are allowing the most made threes per game, almost 16. They had that game where they gave up 12 threes to Curry. Earlier in March, they gave up 5 threes to Levine and 5 to Austin Reeves, which to me are like, that's from a play style perspective, pretty similar to Tyler Hero. And, Hero's kind of been struggling from 3 since February. If you take the long sample, 31%, but his past 5 games, he's making 3 at 48%, 3 threes per game. And this seems like a spot where you can stay hot because the Grizzlies, they're in a bad place.
That place is now the play-in zone in the Western Conference. Grizzlies tumbling all the way down to 8th place entering tonight in the West. More from our guy Alex Barutha in a moment, but first we have a message from DraftKings. The battle for the jacket is heating up in Augusta, and there's no better place to sweat the action than DraftKings Daily Fantasy, the ultimate destination for fantasy golf fans. You can download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app to play free for a shot at the $1 million top prize with just a $10 deposit. It's simple to play. Build your dream lineup while staying under the salary cap, then sit back and watch as your players rack up points. That's for all DraftKings customers. Just download the Daily Fantasy app for your free shot today. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. Minimum $10 deposit required. One single-use $10 ticket rewarded for Fantasy Golf Millionaire Contest that expires on April 10th at 7 a.m. See terms at DraftKings.com/promotions, sponsored by DraftKings. All right, Alex, back to the NBA. Again, 6 games on our Thursday night slate. The biggest of them all, Warriors-Lakers. Huge implications for seeding in the Western Conference. We got the Lakers as just 1-point home favorites, almost even on the money line. Very, very difficult game to handicap. And Alex, you sent us your plays earlier today. I was a little bit alarmed that there were not any defensive props on your card today, but I am relieved that you're at least looking at the turnovers market. This is a very Barutha prop to look at. So what do you like in Lakers Warriors?
Luka Doncic over 3.5 turnovers. It's minus 140, so you might find a higher number somewhere. Exactly. He's averaging 4 turnovers as a Laker. It's actually down since LeBron came back from this recent injury, so about 3 per game over the past 6. But on the year, he's gone for 4+ turnovers and just under half of his appearances. And the main note here that I always look at when the Warriors are on the slate, because since the All-Star break, they are forcing the most turnovers per game, 17.6, which is essentially 2 more than the second place team. And that's a big margin when you're talking about a number as low as 17, right? So in the past 30 days, they've forced 9 individual players to commit 5 or more turnovers. That's a really high mark. And someone who has the ball as much as Luka Doncic, I think I'm happily betting him to go over his average.
Timberwolves at the Nets. We don't have an official play for me here, but I think Minnesota's in an interesting spot where they are in the standings right now. They are the 6th seed over the Clippers, tied with the Clippers, but have the tiebreaker. Both have passed the Grizzlies. You know, the Warriors are within reach. They're playing that tough game against the Lakers tonight. T-Wolves, they've been hovering in the play-in zone for most of the season, but they could be as high as the 5 or maybe even the 4 if you stretch with it there.
Yeah, they've played really well lately. I think some of their early season struggles, they've seemed to kind of leave in the dust. I think some of that was just adjusting to Julius Randle. Then he went out, and I think they figured some stuff out, especially Jaden McDaniels started playing with more confidence offensively. Julius Randle and Gobert both come back, and they've been cooking. So, I mean, they're going to be dangerous in the playoffs. We always talk about that second tier in the West. It's going to be really matchup dependent when it comes to picking a playoff series.
All right, Alex, we got about 30 seconds. There's 2 games we haven't touched on, Blazers, Raptors, and Magic Wizards. Real quick, I know you got a couple props for those games.
Yeah, well, you mentioned I didn't have a defensive prop. I thought about Donovan Clingan over, I think it's a 1.5, wherever it is, but I ended up settling on the rebounds. Over 9.5 rebounds against the Raptors for Donovan Clingan. Toronto's allowing the 3rd most rebounds over the past 10 games. They won't have Jakob Poeltl tonight. I think that's a big advantage for Clingan. Clingan had 14 rebounds against this team when they played earlier in the month. And foul trouble's an issue, but I'm fine with the variance in this matchup.
All right. I know Alex also looking at Bub Carrington under 5.5 assists tonight going up against the Magic. Alex Barutha, everybody. Check him out over at Rotowire.com. Give you some baseball updates, some baseball best bets coming up next on Prop Points.
Watching Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Prop Points on VSiN, Nick Whalen, Jeff Erickson, closing things out. Give you some best bets for a very, very brief MLB slate. Just 5 games coming at us today. 2 of those in action right now. Talk a little NCAA tournament as well. We'll give you our G-Bank best bets. Just a reminder, coming up after us here on the network, it's Make It Rain with Adam Shine. He's going to have former college basketball head coach Matt McCall on the show to preview the Final Four. That's coming up at 3 p.m. Eastern. Taking a look at those 2 in-progress games, Phillies did put a run on the board in the 5th. That was an RBI double from Bryce Harper, scored Kyle Schwarber. Phillies now minus 660 on the money line, despite just being up 1-0. Updated total in that game is 4.5. 5-3, Red Sox leading the Baltimore Orioles. We are heading to the bottom of the sixth right now. That run total down a little bit, Jeff, was at 12.5 about 30 minutes ago, now sitting at 11.5. I do want to ask you about something that we saw last night, Jeff, because so much of the narrative around Major League Baseball over the last week has been about the New York Yankees. It's been about the torpedo bats, specifically what the Yankees did to the Milwaukee Brewers. But saw Zach Allen last night cool off this Yankees lineup. 13 strikeouts over 6 2/3, gave up just 3 hits, did not allow a run. The Diamondbacks bullpen did briefly attempt to blow that game, gave up a homer to Anthony Volpe in the 9th, but Diamondbacks held on for a win. But an impressive performance from Zach Allen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't on everybody's active roster. That's one of the funny things there. In the NFBC main event, it's the biggest high stakes league I play in there. $1,700 entry fee, over a $200 grand prize for the overall contest. He was 61% started, rostered on every single team, but a number of those people benched him for this start against the Yankees. Just didn't want any part of it there. And I can see the logic behind it there. I had him actually on my team, but in part because I didn't have better alternatives to start in place of him. I didn't even consider sitting him. It's my second starter anyhow. I was probably going to ride or die with him, but as we go throughout the season, you're going to see certain teams that in certain situations where you're going to bench all but your best starters at the Dodgers, at the Yankees, Coors Field. You'll see it in a few others. Maybe the Red Sox in Fenway Park. We'll see about that if that's a scenario there. The Diamondbacks are sneakily one of those teams as well. So if you have a left-handed starter, do not start your starter against the Diamondbacks. That'd be my advice there. But it was noteworthy to see that a lot of people had that goodness on their bench. 13 Ks, no earned runs, no runs at all, 6 2/3 innings, a gem by Gallen there. And they were biting on that knuckle curve. And you can have a wiffle ball bat, and if you're trying to swing at a knuckle curve, you're going to miss it.
I think I would miss it swinging at a fastball, Jeff, let alone a knuckle curve. So I will take your word for it on that one. In the mid-afternoon window, we got the Astros and the Twins. This one is in Minneapolis. Joe Ryan going up against Hunter Brown. Twins minus 135 on the money line, plus 114 for the Astros. Total in this game sitting at 7. Very excited to see start number 2 for Hunter Brown. Looked good, I thought, in his opener against the Mets last week. Gave up just 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, did issue 3 walks, ended up kind of a bad luck loss in that game against the Mets. That was back on March 28th. But what do you expected from Hunter Brown in the second start of the season?
So I'm intrigued with Hunter Brown. I'm intrigued with both starters. I think it's a great pitching matchup, and yet I dug into this a little bit more, and it's a surprisingly bad track records for each pitcher against the respective team, especially for Joe Ryan. In 73 at bats against the Astros hitters, their track record against him, and it's not just all Astros, it's hitters in that Astros projected lineup, hitting 274, 327, 538 with 6 homers allowed. Yordan Alvarez in particular has ruled against Ryan. In 11 at bats, he has 3 homers and OPS over 1100. So I'm kind of leaning the over in this game, despite being excited about these pitchers. Brown in particular, not as stark as Ryan, but 753 OPS against the Twins hitters. That's not even great either. Both teams are kind of off to a slow start offensively. Yes, the Astros are not they are off to a really slow start, hitting 178 with only 2 homers as a team. The Twins, they got a little well against the White Sox after a disaster on Monday, but they're only hitting 184 with 5 homers. I kind of feel like this is a weird day to kind of go over. I think that these teams might break out of it a little bit. It's an interesting weather situation there. It's cold. It's 42 degrees, but the wind is blowing out. So my lean is to go ahead and take that over at 7.0. It's a pretty low number at my minus 120.
So given what you just said, would you think about Yordan Alvarez to hit a homer at plus 360?
Sure. I would think about that. Since opening day, my home run sprinkles haven't really worked out as well. Including I get Tyler O'Neill as one of those guys, and he has 3 hits, but none of them are homers. So we need to get back on the train there. So yes, I will take a stab on getting Yordan off the track, getting his first homer for the year. The thing is, usually, plus 360 or sometimes in many cases even higher. You get one of these, it's like hitting a number in roulette, and it pays for 5 spins. So let's take it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Sounds to me like you're due to hit one of these, Jeff, more than anything else.
The due theory, once again, that always works for us, right?
Yeah. Diamondbacks, Yankees. We were just talking about yesterday's results between these two teams. Yankees looking to get back on the right side tonight. They are at home. They'll be rolling out Carlos Carrasco going up against Merrill Kelly. Yankees minus 125 favorites on the money line. High total in this game, Jeff, up at 10. So what do we look at here?
We're looking at a starter in Merrill Kelly that I did bench this week in the same league. One strikeout in his last outing. Pitched pretty well, but only one strikeout. I think if he doesn't miss bats against this Yankees lineup, I think it's going to be trouble. I think he's going to get torpedoed. So I'm kind of going like, I think it's probably a good day for hitters on both sides, but I'm going to definitely go with the over on the Yankees specific run total at minus 135 for over 4.5 for the game. So that's the way I lean on that one there. I expect some offense. I expect the Yankees to bounce back in this one here.
All right, we got one more game in the late window. It's the battle of prop points, I think, Jeff. Your Cincinnati Reds taking on, I mean, one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. I think if there's a team out there that you don't want to face right now, it's this Milwaukee Brewers team coming off of 2 straight wins. They went on a walk-off bunt yesterday afternoon. Do have the Reds as plus 100, slight dogs on the money line. Brewers minus 120. Another reasonable total here, sitting at 8. I think both these teams have been difficult to figure out so far. We've seen plenty of extreme results one way or the other for this Milwaukee team. Nick Lodolo going up against Nestor Cortez. I will tell you, Jeff, as a Brewers fan, I am very nervous for what Nestor Cortez has in store for his second start.
Yeah, and Nestor Cortez had a flexor strain late last year, had a PRP injection. That's as my colleague Eric Halterman writes for us, and with our Bookies Plus members association with our parent company. He writes a few picks for them, and one of them is talking about the Reds and the minus 1.5 runs in the first 5 innings, and it's an anti-Cortez pick here. He suggests that perhaps it's a respite before surgery for Cortez. And if you look at the velocity readings for Cortez, that might buy into that as well. 92.1 was his average fastball last year. In his first start against the Yankees, it was 90.6. That's batting practice variety. Now, it's the conditions will be a little different. It was hot in Yankee Stadium, relatively speaking, for March. It's going to be cooler. In fact, I think they're bringing in heaters for the stadium. The formerly known Miller Park. Because it's actually, and this, you're in Wisconsin right now. It's cold up there right now.
It is. It is not pleasant here in the state of Wisconsin. It's not golf weather in Wisconsin this week. I will tell you that. All right, Jeff, we got some G-Bank best bets coming up here. They are brought to you by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. G-Bank is once again up in the ante with up to a $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers. First, new customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days from opening their account get a $250 bonus. If you spend $50,000 on gaming and sports app loads within 30 days, you'll receive another $500 bonus. So that's potentially $750 in bonus money coming your way. You can apply now at vsin.com/gbank. That's vsin.com/gbank, subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Jeff, we got an NBA slate. We got some baseball games tonight, but you and I are both off the show tomorrow. We'll have Joe Bartle and Alan Soslowski stepping in for us, holding down the fort here on Prop Point. So I will tell you, I wanted to go to the NCAA tournament. I want to get something on the books here for the Final Four. I know you're leaning the same way. Your G-Bank best bet of the night.
My G-Bank best bet of the night is Florida minus 2.5 against Auburn. Florida hasn't played their best game of the tournament yet. And I think this skews in their favor because I think they're capable of this. This is my champ that I picked before the tournament started. In my brackets, I've got Florida over Duke. I feel like I'm not so sure about that final, but I am sure that they should be the favorite against Auburn with a banged up Broom right now. I'm leaning Florida.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Janai Broom is supposed to go through practice today. We'll see how he comes out of that. I'm not 100% convinced that he will be at 100%. I think that would be a very, very big deal for Auburn, which of course has already lost straight up to Florida. I'm looking at combining a couple money lines here. Give me the Duke money line over Houston. Give me that Florida money line. You parlay those at DraftKings plus 125. All right, that will take us out here on Prop Points. Again, Joe Bartle and Alan Soslowski stepping in for us tomorrow. Make sure you catch them here at 2 p.m. Eastern. Make It Rain with Adam Shine coming up next on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.